Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone had a great weekend. We have some more information about Avowed and the sales. There's a lot of discussion going on about the sales of Avowed and whether it is a success or not. I don't think we'll fully know the picture until maybe a couple of weeks from now, but we have a bit more information from Obsidian themselves. It looks like that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 Remaster is happening as the countdown has officially been published. More information on Doom of the Dark Ages, sales numbers, what is the top selling game, how are the consoles doing, is the PS5 Pro on par with the PS4 Pro? We'll have all of that answered today. Sony is being sued for their high prices on the PlayStation Store. Honestly, not surprised, and they're gonna have to go through and prove their case as this lawsuit is happening. Netease cutting more games and cutting more costs, so they're going through a huge thing here. The God of War Remaster, we've heard about this, and is it happening? I think it is. We have Jeff Grubb here who has weighed in, so we'll talk about all of that stuff. If you do enjoy daily gaming news, daily gaming content, discussions, pretty much anything going on in the gaming industry, and you want to hear about it, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I see many of you who do watch are not subscribed, so I would appreciate that. But let's start off. Let's talk about Avowed. Avowed is a interesting one here because this is a game that's very anticipated for a lot of people from Obsidian, who has a history of making great RPGs, and people, whenever they see that they're putting out a new game, do get excited. They're already even working on another game that's going to be coming out this year as well, which is The Outer Worlds 2. But as we know, there was controversy around this game before it did launch, specifically from Matt Hansen, who put out some comments on social media, and we've talked about this in other videos. Not going to go into it, but that caused controversy, and you have people here expecting that this game was going to fail because of that. Everything we've seen so far is kind of mixed. So we've seen that it was the top game on Steam in terms of sales. It had gotten to the top of the list just before it had released. We've then saw on Steam there was 18,000 plus concurrent players, which if you look at that from that number specifically, that does not seem nearly high enough for this game to be a resounding success. One of the things you have to keep in mind is that this game is released everywhere, even on Battle.net. It's in Game Pass Day 1. So that is just a tiny snapshot for how successful the game is in terms of the sales. People could have bought it in so many other places and played it there. And also, it's interesting because it is, again, was the top seller in terms of revenue. So there's a lot of back and forth as to whether this game is a success or not. And again, I don't think we're going to hear the reality of that until later on. If there's layoffs or anything, then we'll know that it probably didn't do as good as they did. But we also may hear that they reached like 1 million players in a few days or something like that when they put out those types of posts. So we'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, I think it is doing pretty good. And Carrie Patel came out here. She is the director of Avowed, and she says that the company is happy with the sales so far. And they say that players have raved about the game, and the company said it is happy with the sales so far. So she came out and she did say that, whatever that means. You can read into that, whether she's just saying that because she is the director of it and wants to keep people excited for the game, or whether they're truly looking at the entire sales chart across everywhere that Avowed has been released, and it is doing well. I think there's a lot to love about this game from what I have played so far. It's not perfect. It's not the best game in the world. There are issues. One of my biggest issues with Avowed so far from my experience is definitely the NPC interactions. They are kind of standing still when you go into the cities, and you can't attack all of the NPCs and have something happen to you, which is like that direct action consequence style of thing that you kind of expect from RPGs, or you would expect that from the Bethesda stuff, but obviously this is from Obsidian. So that is the biggest drawback, but there's the graphics are beautiful. The combat is beautiful. I'm enjoying the story so far. I'm actually enjoying the dialogue and the characters. So I think there's a lot more positive for this game, for me at least so far, that from what I have played, but we'll see how well it does. I'm rooting for it because I would love to see an Avowed 2. I think this is a game that can definitely have a bunch in the series if they do it right. It could be like their Outer Worlds, but on the fantasy side of it. The other weird thing is people can keep comparing it to Skyrim, like even I kind of just did when I'm thinking about how the NPCs do, but they even came out and said, this is not Skyrim. They never once compared this to Skyrim. This is only on the gamer side who are looking at this as a Skyrim competitor. It is not, but it is still a good game and definitely worth trying out from my opinion, from what I have played. Now, when it comes to another game I'm very much looking forward to, it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And We've seen everything happen about the teases. This game is coming, and there now is an official countdown for March 4th on their website or wherever this is. It says a countdown, on the official Tony Hawk's Pro Skater website. An official countdown has appeared on the website leading up to March 4th, and they say Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 remakes are rumored to be revealed on that date. Now, we don't know if that is the case. We had heard in the past that they were looking at making Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remakes, and then it just didn't go through. That to me is probably the most logical thing, since they already have the blueprint from the remakes of 1 and 2, so you think they would just take that, put in the content from 3 or 4, and then be able to put that out relatively easily. And I'm okay with that because the 1 and 2 remakes were phenomenal. So I'm guessing it's that, but maybe it will be something else. Maybe it'll be something completely different that surprises a lot of people. Like, imagine it was actually number 6. They're bringing it back, a brand new entry into the series to basically make up for how bad number 5 was. That would be just absolutely phenomenal and an exciting thing to see. One of the most anticipated games this year, including for myself, is Doom: The Dark Ages. And we have more information here about the game from Edge Magazine. I'll just quickly run through this for you guys if you're interested in learning more about the game. So they say here that it is inspired by Batman, Year One, and the Dark Knight that returns Batman to the roots of the character. The shield saw is simple yet versatile and influenced by Doom Eternal feedback. 2 inputs, you can throw it like Captain America and block, which we've seen all this in the gameplay trailers and looks really fun. Shield used for combat traversal puzzles, similar to the Kratos axe. So if you've ever played the recent God of War games, you throw that thing, you do puzzles, and there's just so many things you can do with it. No double jump or dash, shield bash instead. Melee refills ammo and charges via parries. The gauntlet weapon is fast, weak, punch, kick combo. Flail weapon, slow, strong, burns enemies for armor. Mace weapon, powerful, slow, replenishes all resources. Largest spaces in Doom history. Sandbox style levels. The main path takes about 1 hour per level. Secrets extend playtime. Levels split into acts, dungeon-like sections, and open areas. You ride the cybernetic dragons, which is something that I'm very excited to experience with this game, as we've already seen the gameplay and it looks super cool. Pilot Atlan mechs, again, that looks awesome as well. And Des wanted to have this for 8 years, and it's finally here. And pace breakers to add variety. I have a feeling Doom: The Dark Ages is going to be a Game of the Year candidate. I really do. It just looks so good. Its software is amazing with the stuff that they do create. And Doom is always good. The last 2 that they've added into this series were some of the best. And this one just looks like it is going to be the pinnacle of this series. And I like how they're going with each one that they do put out in kind of a different direction. So it feels different in the way that you play. This one, slower, heavier. You're just going to be mowing down enemies, which to me is actually the most appealing out of the last 3 Doom games, Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, and this one. What they're going for here with the gameplay, where you're a tank, to me that actually seems the most appealing for my playstyle. So exciting to see that, and I can't wait to jump into it. All right, let's talk a bit of sales here. We've talked about Call of Duty Black Ops 6. We already know putting into Game Pass was a resounding success for Xbox because it still was the top seller, and it helped grow Game Pass and all of that stuff, which was what I predicted was going to happen way back, even before they announced this was officially going into Game Pass. You had the naysayers who said that this would ruin the sales of the game, which I just think is a absurd opinion to have when you look at the purchasing of Call of Duty in general. If you look at the habits of people who play these games, it just didn't make any sense to think that was going to happen. Obviously, it was a success, and it still continues to be a success in terms of the sales, as Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was January 2025's best-selling game. It is in the latest data from Circana and Matt Piscatella. 3 of the top 5 spots remain the same, with Madden 25 coming in second, EA Sports FC being the fourth best-selling game. And then we also have here Call of Duty Black Ops 6 continuing its run as the best-selling game in the United States, taking the top spot for January 2025. Here is the list itself. It is just so telling of this industry, how it is dominated by the same games every single year. The Maddens, the FIFAs, the Call of Duties, the Minecrafts that are still up there and everything. So that is the industry, and that's why it's so hard for other competitors to break in, especially in first-person shooter multiplayer genres, because people just keep playing the same thing. They keep playing what they want to play, and they don't really go out there and try new stuff. So it is very hard. You've seen Marvel Rivals do it, but it's one in many that have tried to do it. That is one of the only ones that has been able to break in recently, and hopefully there will be more competition. Like, for example, Battlefield. Looks like this one they're really taking their time with it. I think Vince Zampella brings a lot of confidence to people who are looking forward to the next Battlefield from all the work he's done. So it'd be great to see that battle going on there between Call of Duty and Battlefield again, and who's going to reign supreme in that category. And then it'll push both games to continuously get better. But Call of Duty, again, top in sales. We'll see how long this run lasts, for how many more months it will be the top game as new games do continue to drop. The other thing here is hardware sales. Hardware sales are falling, and they're continuing to fall in the console space. Not surprising. We're getting near the end of this generation, but at the same time, the industry is absolutely changing. Console sales are stagnant at best, and a lot of people are moving to PC. You do have the Nintendo Switch 2 that's going to be coming out this year, which I think will kind of revitalize it, as the Switch 2 I think will sell very, very well. But here are the numbers right now. January 2025 video game hardware sales fell 45% year over year in the US. And again, this is according to Mappiskatella and Circana, saying that hardware sales fall by a massive 45% to 205 million, while accessories fell 28% to 194 million compared to January of 2024. They say despite the drop, PlayStation 5 remained the top selling console in terms of both units and dollars. The Xbox Series was second in dollars, while Switch was second in units sold. And the other very interesting thing here, which this isn't surprising, simply because of the price tag of $700. I don't think the PS5 Pro will sell as well as the PS4 Pro overall. My prediction was, yes, it will sell well at the beginning, and then it will slowly start to die off because the enthusiasts will have already bought it. And after the solid start, they do say that the PlayStation 5 Pro has fallen behind the sales pace of the PlayStation 4 Pro after 3 months. And I think this will continue. I don't see the PS5 Pro going up randomly and having a big spike in sales again, because of the price is the main thing here. I mean, you can look at many other things, like, for example, is it really the biggest upgrade in the world? So far, not really. The PSSR has had tons of issues. I think PSSR will be great, and there have been some good use cases of it, but there are a lot of companies out there that just haven't utilized it properly, and I think it will take a while before the PSSR is fully utilized to its potential, which is why I kind of think PS5 Pro is basically just a beta test for the PSSR, so that when the PS6 launch, the developers will be able to utilize it to its full potential. So I don't see it increasing too much in sales. I don't think it's going to get past the PS4 Pro. But there it is. Those are the sales right now for hardware. Again, consoles, the sales are falling, sales are stagnant. And what is going to come next to rejuvenate this market? Next generation, of course, you always see that gets people excited and pumped up again. It will be relatively soon. But will there be more, like the handhelds that we continuously are talking about? All right, sticking on some Sony news here. They are being sued because of their PlayStation Store for artificially high prices. And even before we get into this is why competition is so important. Because if one of these platforms dies off, if one of these stores dies off, it allows the other one to continue to put higher prices and have nothing pushing back against it. But here's the report. It has been revealed that a Dutch consumer group has filed a class action lawsuit against Sony. The organization Massacod and Consument alleges that Sony is keeping prices on the PlayStation Store artificially high and is abusing the position of power by preventing players from buying digital versions of PS4 and PS5 games elsewhere. We've seen this before. They have basically tried to shut down being able to buy keys and codes from third-party sellers. They say the class action lawsuit, which was discovered by the Tweakers, states clearly in the headline that you're paying too much for PlayStation games, and the suit has dubbed the alleged overpayments the Sony tax, which is hilarious because we talk about the Xbox tax. People talk about that on social media and everything. for a completely different reason. It says, and it stresses that all PlayStation gamers in the Netherlands have a right to compensation. And on February 17th, the legal body wrote to Sony to hold it liable for the abuse of its dominant position and its further unlawful conduct in relation to the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So that is it. I mean, they're being sued here. They believe that the prices are artificially high and there are no other options, no other place you can go to buy these games. Go buy a digital code somewhere for cheaper, which you can get a lot of cheaper digital codes for things like Xbox and Xbox Game Pass or PC games on third-party retailer sites. With PlayStation, you can't. And that is an issue, especially in parts of the world outside of North America where Xbox is competitive to PlayStation, where there just isn't any other major platform to push back against the stranglehold that PlayStation does have. So we'll see what happens here. I don't think this is the first time this has occurred. And if there is action, maybe they'll have to go in there and reduce prices or just open up the competition more, especially to the third-party retailers that sell these digital codes. And we have a couple more things here. This next thing is exciting. I'm excited about this. I hope this does happen. We've been hearing about it for a while, and it is the God of War Remaster. It looks like it is still going to occur, but it is going to be happening during the 20th anniversary of God of War, and that's going to be next month. This is via Jeff Grubb. He says, God of War Remaster is to be announced sometime around anniversary in March, says Jeff Grubb. I mean, that's it. That's the story, but the reality is this makes sense. I mean, PlayStation keeps putting out remasters of games that do not make sense. This one does, unless they're remastering God of War 2018, then that would be hilarious to see the meltdown online from people who are expecting this to be the older God of Wars. But it would make complete sense, and this thing would sell like crazy. I would be going on and buying it day one if they released the original trilogy remastered and everything for the current generation, and it's a nice, well done remaster. It would be phenomenal. It makes complete sense to have this announced at the 20th anniversary of the series. So I do believe this is going to happen. I'm looking forward to finally getting that announcement. And finally, NetEase. We heard about Marvel Rivals, them cutting off that team in Seattle, which made no sense because the game had just reached like 40 million players and doing extremely well. And you would expect that everybody's job would be secure. But it looks like they are just reducing investments in other parts of the world. They want to increase their profit and realizing they don't really need the other parts of the world when they can create all of these games, especially the fact that they're located in China. And if they sell it to the Chinese market and do very well, they may not need the other parts of the world as much as they thought they did. And they're making more cuts here. The CEO is reportedly cutting funding for a dozen games. They won't support marketing for Negoti's and other Japanese-made games. So wild stuff here. It says, now a fresh report by Bloomberg alleges that the Chinese company suffered many abrupt changes mandated by its founder and CEO, William Ding, who cut hundreds of jobs and suddenly pulled back its massive foreign investment. As a reminder, over the last few years, NetEase has invested in many studios based in North America, Europe, and Japan, such as Behavior Interactive, Suda51, Negoshi Studio, Quantic Dream, Rebel Wolves, Skybox Labs, Jar of Sparks, Jackalyptic Games, T-Zero, Worlds Untold, and Fantastic Pixel Castle. And they say of these, Jar of Sparks and Worlds Untold already had their funding cut by NetEase a few months ago, and the heads are now desperately looking for another publisher and source of funding. So they're just cutting funding in their foreign investments. And I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here. At least the way that I think about it is we've already seen the success that a Chinese-made game can have with Black Myth Wukong. If they were to just have released Black Myth Wukong in China, that game would have still been very successful with the amount of sales that did happen there. They can dominate that market. They push it. They have all the marketing for it. Everybody is looking at that just singular game, and then they go out and buy it in day one. There were even reports that people were given the day off in China to go out and get and play Black Myth Wukong. Now, I can't confirm that's 100% true, but that's where some reports that were coming out. And if you're NetEase Games and you're looking at that market growing, you're thinking, okay, well, we don't really need the foreign market as much if we can just invest in our own Chinese market and make way more money and make way more profits overall, rather than have all these additional costs with all of these foreign companies. And maybe that's what is going on here. I'm not 100% sure, but they're basically targeting more profit here by cutting the funding for all of these games. And this is going to be interesting to see how this does play out, because the Western studios, they would love to capitalize on the Chinese market, but the rules just don't work the same. It doesn't go both ways here because of the difference in the two markets, difference in the governments and everything. But we'll see what happens. Netease has a huge advantage here, and they're already cutting jobs off. We did see that with the fact that they closed down that Seattle studio. But on the video there, guys, let me know what you think about all this. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.